Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of the Day-to-Day podcast.
Yes, we almost missed the recording today because today is the day where daylight saving sort of
Yeah,
goes away.
yeah,
Yeah, it goes away. It ends. Yeah.
yeah. The same goes away. Yeah, yeah. So we discussed about this a bit before. Like it's either you slept an hour more or slept an hour less. We need to figure this out later. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's yeah. I feel I feel all right, but I'm generally I feel sleepy
can
when I yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And generally we can manage with less sleep or like sometimes waking up on the same time. Like you feel like it's kind of the same. Yeah.
yeah, it's weird. So I looked at it. It was like what 5, but I feel like I've gotten enough rest because so when I slept the day before and got a bit of
Mm.
rest and then anyway.
Yep. So yeah, this is how our discussion started before the podcast started
Yeah.
today. But anyway, we have a couple of interesting topics today as well. More towards the automobile car industry, I would say we have a few
Yep.
interesting topics. Yeah. What we're gonna start with is a news by Toyota, or maybe this has been up in news for some time. They've been talking about new batteries, solid state batteries, and
Mm.
apparently there's a new news going on saying that Toyota is getting ready with a solid state battery production, like that they're ready to go into full production by 2027. They might be able to give a battery with a range of 700 miles. That's probably around 1,000 kilometers or a bit more, I think.
1.6 is, yeah, more than 1,000.
Yeah, in more than 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah, a
And
bit more than
then,
1,000.
yeah, and they say that the battery can be charged fully in 10 minutes. So, this is where we're gonna start our discussion.
Oh, that sounds interesting. So just to give some context to everyone, what is a solid state battery, right? So you must be wondering. So generally, like batteries that we have, what's running on the camera, what's on my laptop, on the phone, all of that, that's all generally tends to be lithium-ion batteries, and it's essentially a liquid electrolyte. Right, so I mean, you need to have something called an electrolyte and a cathode and cathode and anode.
Mm,
It's this sort of chemical reaction that happens, and because of that chemical reaction, you get a charge, and you can put charges in and get charges out. So very basic explanation. So the issue with that is the liquid electrolyte tends to be not the most, what do you say, energy dense, if you will, and it tends to have like other negative effects. Like so, if you puncture the battery, tends to explode and all that stuff. As opposed to solid state batteries, there is no liquid electrolyte. It's a solid electrolyte. It could be some kind of metal or something like that. Technically, a capacitor is a sort of a solid state battery, but
okay,
I'm not
okay,
I'm
yeah.
not sure about that.
This is what I was gonna ask. Like, I was thinking, am I dumb to ask? I was like, is it a capacitor solid state? But does
I
it
I
have some
I
kind of
I think so.
liquid in?
So I mean, no, it doesn't have any liquids. It's just
Mm,
it's I think capacitors are like a sort of they have like different layers. I think it's aluminum and copper, and there's like
mm.
insulation between it. And
Okay.
we are not like electronics experts, right? So we're just sort of uh, skimming
Remembering
through the
our
top.
like old
Yeah,
science classes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Remembering, trying to remember, like school time science lessons
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, the main advantage is, for example, let's say a capacitor, right? So let's use the example of a capacitor. A capacitor can be charged like quite instantly. It's sort of mainly used to help protect against power surges and things like that. And they're used in so many other applications, but what the purpose of it is to sort of keep a charge, a massive
Mm,
charge, and let it go at once. So capacitors haven't been able to perform the actions of a battery because they charge up quickly and they discharge quickly as well, right? So I think what they've been trying to solve is you can charge up quickly, but not discharge as quickly. You can just, if you trickle it
mm,
down, if you trickle charge or sorry, trickle discharge, it'll be the best thing. And the good part is if you puncture it, nothing happens. It tends to be
mm,
more lightweight. And I think even the manufacture of it is relatively less impactful to the environment,
mm.
unlike what you have with lithium, because lithium is sort of you need to mine it and transport it, process it, all
Yeah.
of that. But yeah, it's overall good. It's just that they've been having trouble wanting mass manufacture
Mm,
is a issue because I think the process is rather tedious on how you sort of
mm. And
design that battery. So
expensive, isn't it?
and expensive, yeah, exactly. And you can't really scale it to produce vehicles. So there's been a few barriers to it, and that's what Toyota claim have solved. Let's see what I mean. Because there hasn't been like too much sort of information about this exactly. It's just that it just says 700-mile range,
Mm.
10 to 15 minutes charge. Climate impact is apparently going to be reduced by about 40%. But we'll have to actually see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Generally, people tend to make claims, but it's always good to get an idea. actually see it before making anything. So the interesting part is Toyota. I mean, they do have EVs, some sort of EVs, not a lot. They're not like known for EVs. They're known for hybrids, I would say. Like so, Prius
Yeah.
being the main hybrid vehicle that they have. I mean, they have a logic behind it. They say, "Okay, we're not ready for the whole battery thing, really," and they've sort of not really gone into electric
Mm.
vehicles or at least battery electric vehicles like other manufacturers have. They've stuck with hydrogen a lot. So the Toyota Mirai was like a huge thing. They were trying to sell it, but it wasn't really that successful because the whole infrastructure regarding hydrogen is not the best. So it's like you need to create that whole infrastructure from scratch, and it didn't really seem viable because you're driving around with a pressurized hydrogen tank, which is
Mm.
I mean not the best thing because pressurized hydrogen is not the best thing. If you
Yeah.
it's more flammable, I would say. I don't know, arguably more flammable than lithium. I don't know, maybe. Probably, I don't know.
Yeah.
It can be bad. Yeah, a few things, but I'm just interested to see why they're sticking with the whole petrol thing. There are people saying, they are run by the oil lobby and, there's a lot of oil
Mm.
money going in, all of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's see. Maybe they'll, in the end, they'll say, okay, we still need to have a fossil fuels to create these solid state
Mm.
batteries or something like that. I'm just
Yeah.
expecting that in the end, but let's see how that
I,
goes.
I think like again, like we've seen car manufacturers being stubborn, some of them
Mm,
moving to electric or like sort of renewable energy
mm,
sources. But generally the public is moving towards it. So they are more or less forced. This is what happened to, for an example, Apple. They had the right to repair movement kind of forced it
mm.
becomes a business decision to be more public with things like that,
Yeah,
to get good
yeah,
face at least and
exactly,
sell their
exactly.
products. Toyota, like you said, like hasn't been the biggest EV
Advocate.
like advocate,
Yeah.
but probably they are being forced to go into it, and maybe
Mm.
they were waiting for, I don't know, maybe it's an accident, maybe they were waiting for a reliable battery technology to come before they move into
Yeah. I mean that could be the case. I
manufacturing.
mean that generally could be the case, right? Who knows?
Mm,
Because although there are battery electric cars, lithium ion is not perfected technology, right? And it's not accessible to everyone still. There are cheap cars, but those are mainly
mm,
city cars. You can't really use them like you
yeah.
would the normal petrol vehicles. I mean there are cars that you can use like that, but
Mm,
they tend to be a bit more expensive
yeah.
and the long range side. So I'm just interested to see because China is picking up on the manufacturing
Mm,
right now. So they are, I think undoubtedly the higher they sell the most number of cars,
mm,
electric cars. I
mm,
think maybe that's the wrong statistic, but yeah, I
mm,
remember somewhere that's the case. And Chinese manufacturers are going all in on electric. They are, I think, beating brands like
mm,
older brands like Mercedes, all of the German brands, Audi, BMW, and even so and that I think the closest competitor that these guys have is like Tesla, and I think they might be beating them as well in certain aspects.
yeah.
I don't know. Let's see, especially cost, right? So cost to sort of efficient, but I think Tesla Model 3 is a bit ahead. But if you take
Mm,
the whole
mm,
range of things and whole number of features that you get in that car, in I think the
mm,
BYD Series 5 or something, it's much better than what you get in the Tesla.
mm,
Tesla 3, Model 3 tends to be a bit
mm,
smaller and less space, all of that.
yeah.
So if this comes in, interested to see how China reacts to it
Yeah.
because
What I saw in the
all in.
comments, yeah. What I saw in the comments on the TikTok video that I saw this news about,
Mm.
like in the beginning, a lot of people are very, how do you say, sure about the reliability of Toyota products. In like
Ah,
where, so they're saying, or like they have been in a reliable business, like saying that most
mm,
of the products, or most of the vehicles that they manufactured have been good products that
mm,
ran for a long time
mm,
efficiently.
mm,
So there's a lot of trust in at least the people who saw this news, saying that
mm,
if it's Toyota and if they come out with it, this is gonna be a success.
mm.
Like that's what they say, because they believe Toyota as a brand to build good cars. And I think that makes sense. They this
Yeah,
whole Japanese cars idea
yeah,
in the beginning when they came out,
yeah.
it is there. So there's a certain level of trust with the whole. I don't know whether it's propaganda, what's happening. With the
Mm,
whole mindset on China, what's
mm,
from the Western world, let's say the mindset, they are more prone to quickly accept Toyota as like Toyota cars, or like if they come up with it,
mm,
like, and then fully flush
mm.
out the Chinese cars. If they
Yeah,
get the chance to
yeah,
do it, they'll
yeah.
they'll do it
That's
in the
yes,
first second they can. So
exactly. Yes,
yeah,
yes. That because Japan is sort of more Western leaning, I would
yeah,
say. rather than towards Asian
Yeah.
countries. But I mean, let's see. I'm just interested to see what happens because there's a lot of dynamics that are ongoing, especially with the US. They are not the
Mm,
best ally, I would say, that we have
yeah.
right now. There have been a few scandals in the past,
Yeah.
recent past at least.
Mm.
The French are not really fans of the US for some reason. Getting less of it. So I mean, I
Mm,
don't know. There's a whole mix of things that's going on.
mm,
Let's see what happens with that. I'm interested.
yeah.
To see. But
And then
anyway,
yeah.
I
Mm.
still stand by the fact that you need to use public transport more.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, countries need to develop their public transport. That should be the primary way of transport in any country. Like
Mm,
cars, like private vehicles should be the second, like
yeah.
priority all the time. Like, and I think that again, this is not the common method over all the world, but
No.
in quite developed economies they use this.
And
Yeah.
people say I mean, you can't do it in certain countries because it's they're too big, but it's not really the case.
No. No.
I mean, of course, you need to have some sort of public transport for a city. You need to have
Mm.
definitely have public transport, and the further away you go from a city, it will be less and less. That's normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Infrequent, but that's when the whole car comes in and you can sort of access those areas in a
Yeah.
car if required. And that's how it
Mm.
should be designed, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. I think like yeah, I mean this is another maybe we can get into it later, but like
Yeah.
about public transport and how some countries are not. So
Yeah. Maybe next
uh,
the topic for next week.
yeah, well, let's keep that. Yeah. I wanted to connect like
Hmm.
I found another article I think I mentioned to you about Honda and
Oh yeah.
electric vehicles. Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is just a bit connected to the previous topic, so we're bringing it up at the same time. So Honda has had a deal with General Motors, right? GM. That's
Hmm.
yeah. They have given up the deal, or like they have given up saying that making cheap electric vehicles is too hard for them. So they've sort of given up the project because it's not that easy. I mean, this is kind of, we've been talking about this for a bit right
Hmm.
now as well. So I think the main reason that they are giving up is because of the battery, like not being able to have an efficient battery. Or like the now cancelled platform was supposed to use GM's Altium batteries.
Hmm.
GM debuted Altium in 2020, and it's the generation lithium ion cell. Yeah,
Was that the battery in the Hummer,
yeah,
new Hummer?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Mm.
yes. GMC
Okay.
Hum. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They were supposed to be ready for mass production, but apparently not.
So
That's
maybe
what.
they were just, that news was to just get their share prices up and then,
Yeah,
slowly let them
yeah,
know we are not really
mm,
ready. Yeah, but
yeah.
companies doing shenanigans.
So the EV market is still pretty much unstable, like or like at
Yeah.
least
I mean,
uh,
it's a good second up. I mean, still,
yeah,
it's hard to sort of unanimously say buy an EV, right? There are so many factors that you
yeah,
need to
yeah.
consider.
At least at the moment, it feels like like I said, it's a tech product. It feels like a tool. It feels like
Mm.
a toy that you want to buy, to kind of test out and feels,
Yeah.
it feels good. It feels like that for the moment. It doesn't feel
Mm.
like a everyday
I mean,
usable thing.
it could be every day for certain people, but
Yeah.
you can't really recommend it to everyone. So, like
Mm,
buying a car, let's say for example, if you're just running in the city, right?
mm,
If you want to go in
yeah.
and out of the city, there are enough and more cars that run on electric that
Mm,
perfectly
mm,
suit you, right? But for the occasional long distance trip, you need to either rent a diesel or petrol car, whatever,
mm,
and use
mm,
that because that's not going to take you as far. There are certain cars that can do a lot of these things, but they tend to be on the expensive side. There are few cheaper ones. So many I mean, there is so much stuff to consider. It's not just as easy as
mm,
just choosing a model that's good for you. You need to consider certain additional things on top of that.
mm,
So generally, what we consider when buying a petrol car, you don't really care about the range and all of that, right? Just go, okay, car looks good, spacious, fit for me.
yeah.
I do travel. I need a smaller. Let's say if you're like, I need a smaller car because I go into city. You can use that
Mm,
same car to just go somewhere else you want to, right? It's
yeah.
just doesn't matter
You,
unless
you,
you're
you
going
might
off-roading.
Yeah, you might probably think about how many kilometers does it do with 1 liter of gas or
Exactly.
whatever, like things like that.
Efficiency.
Efficiency.
You
Yeah.
think efficiency, but you wouldn't think about, okay, I'm gonna run out and I need to plan
Yeah.
trips and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
It
yeah. Yeah.
doesn't come to that state yet, but maybe with the
Yeah.
solid state batteries it might, but
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. Solid. I mean, I wish solid state batteries are get made, and because if that gets made, like for cars, it's gonna trickle down to
Mm, other
the other
products.
device. Yes.
But
laptops, phones. It's gonna be amazing. Let's talk about it. Let's get into that. Like
I
and see
mean,
like.
yeah, that's an interesting topic. I'm just wondering. Okay, generally solid state batteries I think are supposed to be a bit longer lasting. So longer lasting in
Yeah,
the sense battery health wise, right?
yeah, yeah.
How many charge cycles it can take. I'm not sure whether it's same or whether it's better. I actually don't have information on that. Maybe it is better. I'm guessing it should be better, right? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm
Okay.
assuming, like it's this is like what people have been talking. Like I think solid state batteries for phones has been a discussion for quite some time as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
people are trying to build it, but it's the same concern. It's too expensive to manufacture, too
Mm-hmm.
expensive to kind of mass produce, at least for the moment. But I think it's a
Yeah.
matter of time. If one company does it, it's gonna be
Trickle
like
down.
yeah, exactly. Like imagine having a phone you charge one day and you keep it running for a month or 2 months.
Mm.
That's like a dream come true.
That's interesting because I've seen a couple of clips recently, right? Things about diesel engines and things, right?
Mm,
When they were introduced, they changed the market in like a decade or so, right?
mm,
So there were like horses everywhere and
mm,
horse-driven cars and all of that. All of that went away in like,
mm,
I mean, even probably even less than a decade when it was introduced, right? There was I mean, in the cities at least, right? So that
mm,
market just suddenly it's not there anymore, like
mm,
after 10 years. I mean, it probably was there in like small clusters, but nothing like it used to be, or nothing like
mm,
it was in the even at least probably in the last 50 or maybe 100 years.
mm,
And I'm just wondering whether if Toyota came up with this, it'll be the same because
mm.
it's gonna be a massive impact, right?
Yeah,
If that were to be the case, right?
yeah, yeah.
What would happen to all the fuel cars, right? Will they just, I don't know, go away randomly?
I saw an article. I don't know what did you, I don't know whether it was like I saw in some place where they were talking about that fuel cars will get similar treatment to what horse racing is right now. It
Yeah,
will
exactly.
be
Yeah.
it will be an
Maybe like a
experience
thing you
someone
do
can
on the
do in.
weekend.
Yeah, it's a hobby. You can go to a track and actually
Exactly.
race or try fuel car like combustion like cars just to try. But it's not something that's gonna be the what people generally use outside because it's inefficient, it's polluting, and there's gonna be a lot of restrictions. I'm
Mm,
sure like once this becomes mainstream, solid state if it works out, they're gonna quickly put out restrictions. Okay, you're gonna flush out electric ice cars out of the market. You're not allowed to buy anymore. You're not allowed to sell anymore
mm,
to public. It's
mm.
gonna be very much limited. This is what I expect, at least. Yeah, gonna
Yeah,
happen.
that's interesting because yeah, I mean you can't really predict the future, right? It's hard to do that because they've again like back when the whole flying thing was before planes they had these
Mm.
huge balloons sort of things, right?
Yeah,
Not balloons,
blips, blips.
blips. Yeah, blips. I
Yeah,
I don't know what they're called, right? They were like massive again, filled with hydrogen, floated, and they were pretty successful. I mean,
yeah,
they could go transatlantic, right? They just go
yeah.
from Europe to US and back. And someone in that era, they were asked to sort of predict the future. And blips were everywhere. They were used for cargo
Yeah,
transport and, all of that,
yeah,
right? That's what they were predicting, probably ideally
yeah.
50 years in the future and all of that. But
Mm.
then I think the next year, the whole, was it Hindenburg? Yeah, Hindenburg
Mm.
disaster. That's when
Other, yeah,
the whole
yeah,
explosion thing, right? I can't remember where it
yeah,
happened. It was in
yeah,
Germany. And that just crashed everything. And
yeah,
then a few years later, airplanes came in and just
yeah.
it's like everything
No,
flying like now,
yeah,
like
yeah.
is an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
So people really couldn't predict that back then. And I
Yeah,
mean, I doubt. I mean, you can't really predict sort of
yeah,
fringe technology that's like a very small thing
yeah,
suddenly blowing up, right? You can't really predict
yeah.
that. So the whole thing about batteries and charging and all that, that might change everything like in a few
Mm-hmm.
years. Can all just go
Yeah,
away. But
yeah,
I'm just
true.
interested to see what happens.
Yeah, like I was thinking, like if the solid state batteries come into place, it's not just about how long the charge can last. That
Mm,
means there will be much more powerful devices that will run it
mm,
out in a shorter duration. Like
mm,
you
mm,
can have much more powerful laptops, which doesn't
mm,
need charging. Maybe yeah, like much more powerful graphics cards, more powerful
mm.
processors on
Exactly.
a mobile
Exactly. On a mobile
scale.
device. So it could be as
Yeah,
small as a phone, right? You can have a solid
yeah,
state battery.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then it could be very powerful devices on a phone. So that's
Mm,
again like these are the speculations. It can happen. It like I said, it cannot happen. And something completely different can be invented like
exactly.
very suddenly, and we could go off in a very different direction. So you never know.
Yeah,
did
maybe it'll be a
you?
good thing for the headsets, right?
Yeah.
That's the 3D
Yes.
headsets. Sorry, the 3D,
Yeah.
the VR headsets. What am I saying?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's gonna be like the light sort of discussion we had, like how they're gonna move from bulky VR to light VR headsets. That probably might be a possibility with a very thin strip of battery. I don't know. What do you call it? Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, right?
Um,
I'm excited in a way. I hope I get to live through that, but let's
Yeah,
see.
yeah. I mean, whatever this Toyota prediction, hopefully we will be able to see this. But if it comes out, did you get a chance to watch the series that I mentioned before, Pantheon? Not yet, right? No,
Oh no, not yet, not
no,
yet.
no. No. Okay,
I was
that's
the
okay.
latest one you mentioned, Pluto.
Yeah,
Yeah, still
yeah,
in the
yeah,
works. But yeah,
yeah,
I think it looks good. First episode was
yeah,
good. Yeah, we'll watch and see what happens.
yeah. It's yeah. Just for people who don't know, Pluto is like a new anime that came out. It talks about humanity and robotics, kind of. That's the whole discussion. There's a lot behind it, but
And
like
yeah,
I've heard.
in these robots have sort of consciousness. They have.
Yeah.
It's not like they're not
Mm,
like slaves or anything. They have their own
yeah.
consciousness. They have relationships.
Yeah.
They apparently dream.
Yeah, I've heard that this is one of the most popular, most successful stories when it came out as like a comic book, as a manga, like in the
Uh,
Japanese. Yeah, it's been a very success, like one of the most famous stories that people have read apparently.
oh,
And yeah, they've been
nice.
commenting that it's been really nicely translated into the animated version with the music and everything.
Oh
It's really done
yes,
really well. Yeah,
first
yeah.
episode.
Yeah, and if you've seen, there's there one other, like another anime that came from the same artist. The who wrote the story was called Monster. If you've seen it, maybe you've heard about it. No.
I think I've
Uh,
seen it. Like it comes up on my suggestions, but yeah.
yeah, it's a story that's connected to the Second World War, I think,
Hmm.
Germany, and then like about building soldiers from kids, kind of. That's kind of a story that they
Oh.
do. Yeah, but it's also a very sort of serious, mature topic. It's
Hmm.
but it's a bit longer, I think, than this one. It had like 20-minute episodes or something. There's another topic that I saw on Reddit. Microsoft talking about like Windows Phone. If you remember Windows
Oh
Phone, that
yes, yes.
that was a
Windows
thing. So
Phone.
that was a thing some time ago.
They had
Microsoft
like
CEOs,
couple of iterations. So that I think Nokia adopted. Did Microsoft buy Nokia or something? I remember
something like
something
that.
like that.
Nokia,
Yeah,
the Nokia mobile phone division, Microsoft bought,
bought right.
and then they I
Sold it
think
off, right?
sold it off. Yeah, after that. Yeah,
Yeah,
something. Yeah,
yeah. Because
yeah.
they had their like this whole. But I mean that uh, those phones look nice though, right? Like they
Yeah,
had
they
good
did. Very
design. They had good
sleek, a
UI.
bit plasticky though. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, maybe some were a bit plastic. Yeah, yeah. They had like insane cameras. I remember there's like a
Yeah,
45 megapixel camera once
yeah,
on one
that
phone.
they came out with the big cameras in the beginning, like before anyone
Yeah,
else. Like I think
yeah,
was it Carl Zeiss lens, or I don't know what it is,
yeah.
something
I
like
mean
that.
that
Yeah,
was like this thing. We have these all Zeiss lenses and massive
uh,
cameras, but yeah,
yeah. But it was interesting as an operating system. Windows
uh,
OS. Right now we're just stuck with like iOS and then Android.
Android, yeah.
But there are some very niche phones with Linux running, but not that's not worth talking about. Other versions of Linux running, but yeah, the Windows Phone was kind of a transition that they got into, and right, the CEO is saying right now giving up the Windows Phone and mobile was a mistake, as what he's saying. Yeah,
I mean, it's why though? But they weren't really doing anything interesting anyway, right?
I mean
It's
they weren't doing anything interesting,
yeah.
but
I
compared
mean,
to
they were
what
doing.
Apple
Okay,
is,
let me rephrase it. I mean, they were doing something interesting, but it was not mainstream enough, I would say.
yeah, yeah.
Probably that's the right word.
It's
People to
surprising
care.
though, being how many people use Microsoft and how much, I mean, like how many people use Windows. They could
Yeah.
have used that very easily to create like a very nice ecosystem, but probably it was uh, they didn't
It's
have.
yeah. The thing is to create the ecosystem, you need control over the hardware, right? And they don't have that control. I
Mm.
think they need to have
But
some because Apple, when they say our phones guaranteed
yeah,
works with the laptop, right? It works, right? Because they have
yeah,
sort of integrated
yeah, mm.
infrastructure. And even if it's something outside of iOS, if it's Samsung, right? Samsung, Dex, all of that. they have like drop off and things like that. Those work together, right?
Yeah,
With all the
yeah,
Galaxy devices, they
yeah.
just work. That's something that Microsoft didn't really have control of. And
Mm,
I mean, so Microsoft for a software company going into hardware is not the easiest thing, right?
mm.
Because hardware game is different. It's more hands-on. Your factories
Yeah,
producing things, designs, marketing, all of that, right?
yeah. But I
It's not
think
an easy game to get into.
maybe now it's a bit different for them. Maybe that's why
Mhm.
they're thinking about it because they have their own
Probably.
line of hardware coming out, like the
Yeah.
Microsoft laptops, Microsoft Surface
But
devices.
they do. But I think we spoke about this as well. They haven't really innovated recently
No,
in any of those. It's
no.
just been like, just put out a laptop, yeah, whatever, just buy the
Yeah.
spec pump, latest
Mm,
Intel processor and all of that. I mean, nothing sort of, I would say that you would go out of your way to buy a Microsoft laptop,
yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
You wouldn't do that.
Like the level of interconnectivity that Apple has put into their devices, it's
Mm.
difficult to achieve like with anything else. Like I'm just an example. I'm thinking like when I put my phone on do not disturb mode, my laptop goes on do not disturb mode.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
It's
synced with the account, right? Yeah.
yeah, it takes in the account. Like what they've done with the what was the name for the camera? Like the when you can use your phone as
Uh,
the
continuity camera? Is it
continuity
there?
camera. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like what they've done with that is pretty
I
amazing. I
mean,
mean,
you can do the similar thing
yeah,
with Windows and Android, right? There are some certain things that work together, but people wouldn't use it that
yeah,
often because it's a bit of a hassle with us sometimes. Yeah, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it works, sometimes it just randomly doesn't work
mm,
for some reason, right?
mm.
Apple does that too, but
Yeah,
it's less frequent,
yeah,
I would
yeah.
say.
Maybe we can
And
take up some. Yeah, go.
talking about Apple, there's a surprise
Yeah.
event coming up. So
Yes, yes,
let's
yes.
talk about that next week. I don't know. It's probably going to be the M3 chip, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's all I want to give
Well,
attention to Apple.
yeah. There is a new Apple event that's gonna happen. When is it? Next week? Is it? What's
30th or
happening?
31st, right? Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
Or
it's a Halloween
scary
event.
fast,
Yeah,
scary
yeah.
fast event. Yeah.
Scary fast. Yeah. Some people are predicting that it's going to be a more gaming focused Mac, maybe,
Ooh,
maybe,
interesting, interesting.
maybe. Some
That
people
should
are
be fun.
predicting. Yeah.
Finally gonna go
Yes.
mainstream.
I think right now it's they how to say their Macs are quite similar to what the iPhones have become. Like it's small incremental updates. I don't know whether they can actually do a massive jump performance wise. I don't think so.
Probably not.
But they can probably fit in a lot of hardware into one device and say, okay, this is an extreme version, or a new screen. I don't know, a more high refresh rate screen or things like that for gaming if that's what they want. Did they release anything with M3? They did, right? Like
No, no,
did they?
no,
No,
nothing
no,
is M3, right? No,
not
it's
yet.
been
No,
like
no.
M2 Max and M2 Ultra, I think.
Okay, yeah. Because yeah, what did they release? Did they release any laptops in the last event? No, it was more mobile, right? Like the last event.
Yeah, last event is all
Yeah.
mobile. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Then this probably is like the M3 Air, maybe. I don't know.
Probably. Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So we will. I mean, we'll probably have things to talk about the Apple event next week, and
Yeah.
maybe we can also take up the topic about public transport someday. Do a bit more research on
Yeah.
that
We
and
keep
see.
ranting about it, but we don't really talk about it. But yeah,
Yeah, because
let's see.
we don't. It's not something that we really read or have studied about, or like at least
Yeah.
have shown that much interest in. So
Mm.
that's why we probably don't talk about it as a main topic. But it is something interesting. It's more political, I would say,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
than real technology or
Is that
something.
like tech? It's the whole. I mean, so there's this sort of joke that's going around, right, on the social media that Elon Musk sort of reinvented the train with the whole Hyperloop thing because it's essentially what it does is it's just underground. So he's just created a subway, right? Essentially,
Yeah,
but it's just that how he's positioning it is like it's his whole new radical
yeah,
thing that he's trying to do.
yeah.
Right? Okay, I get that the whole suction tubes, like vacuum tubes and going really fast. That's that's the new thing about it. But the whole thing about transporting people from one place to another place in a vehicle,
Mm,
that's sort
yeah.
of
public transport.
Yeah, it's public transport, man. Like there's nothing major about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see how Hyperloop works out in the end.
Okay, then I think we don't have time for a new topic today, so we can actually close up maybe with
Short, short,
this.
short,
Yeah, yeah.
short podcast this time.
Not this short, but not that short, but like a couple of
Yeah,
minutes
it's not
short
that
than
short, but
usual.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But then thank you very much for listening to us, and then we'll come back next week with some Apple news maybe and some
Okay,
other topics if we have time. We'll see what they do. But until then, have a great week ahead, and thank you for listening
yep.
to us.
Have a good one.
Take care. Bye bye.
Take care.